Mitch Chilson. Mitch and I met in the Philippines, and he is the 1FC commentator. He's got an amazing story to tell us, his life story, and I've always had interesting conversations with him. Today, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Usually, there's a couple of hosts talking to a guest, but today it's just going to be me catching up with a good buddy of mine. And usually in these conversations, they go on all twists and turns. And today we wanted to share this conversation with you. So I'm going to bring on Mitch. Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
What's up, buddy? It's good to see you, man.
Very good to see you, bro. We've messaged a couple of times over the past crazy 2 years, and we've always been doing things and chasing stuff, so we haven't had that time to have a proper catch up. So I'm so glad that you were able to make time for me today. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and what better way to catch up than on your podcast? I'm excited to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
Most welcome. How are you, man? You look great, as per usual.
It's a struggle, man. Every day is a struggle not to slide back down that hill, man, especially with these troubling times. You know, it's been crazy around the world. It's like the first time that we're all going through a similar thing. So it's been interesting to hear about how all my friends and family have been handling this situation. So I've been good. You know, I moved out here to Singapore. So I relocated from Manila to Singapore. And it was chaos, man. Like I had to leave Sarsi for a year, like my fiance. I had to try to get the cat here, which was an absolute fiasco. And I just moved into a new place. So things are almost settled and comfortable. We're doing regular shows at One Championship, which is great. So things are good, man. I have no reason to complain.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear what the change of country was like for you, getting Sarsi over, because I know that can all be an absolute nightmare. And the cat, I hear horror stories, and just relocating animals is an expensive feat. So I'm going to ask you how much that was. How much did you end up spending?
I think in total it was close to like 500,000 pesos.
So that is, I have no idea how much that is. That's a couple of grand. Far out, man.
It's several thousand US dollars to get her to here. But it was hard financially. Yeah, that's a big pain in the ass, right? But I was more worried about her. You know, she's an older cat, you know, so, and she's never had anything like that, you know, so to have Sarsi send her away and to not know what she was going through, and then to have her sit in quarantine because they've never had rabies here in Singapore because of their strict quarantine laws. So like the cat had to sit in quarantine for a month. So every day I went and visited this cat, and before we were close, like I liked her a lot and we had good times, but she would still hiss at me and she was still rude to me sometimes. But now our relationship is so different. Like we are absolute best friends. It's quite nice.
I was going to say all of that money, the time and the effort, and I'm a dog person, so all the cat people out there are going to hate me for this because I don't like cats. I can tolerate them, but I don't like them. We've got a mutual understanding. So I was going to say all the money, time, and effort, and this cat's not even going to appreciate it. But I'm really glad this cat appreciates all your efforts.
100%. She appreciates it. It's like I saved her from the streets. Like she has a newfound appreciation for me. It's wonderful. But that's the thing. Before her, I wasn't a cat person either. I've always grown up with dogs, and I had dogs in Seattle. I've always been around, you know, canines, right? And because of the loyalty, the admiration, the walking of the dog, the trips you can take together. It's a very man-centric pet, right? Like a man and his dog. It's a tale as old as time, right?
Yeah.
But now I am fully a cat person. Like she has my heart. So.
Oh, that's lovely. That is lovely. Hey, what we should do, well, I've got to check myself in this conversation that there is an audience, there are people out there listening to this. So what I should do is give some context behind who you are, and what you do. So I've already mentioned that you are the one championship or one of, you got a great partner there in the commentary team. But before that, you were a professional fighter in that league and in other leagues. You've been involved with Evolve MMA Gym. So a lot of mixed martial arts. So for the people at home, Mitch has done mixed martial arts specialist, actor, model. The list goes on and on. I didn't want to go into that's all for you. But no, he doesn't have an ego at all. That's the one thing about this guy. But I don't want to go into like your whole life history because you've been on some great interviews. There's a couple other guys. I think Jake, Mixed Martial Arts, has interviewed you. You talked about a lot of yourself. So we're going to put those links in the below. But if you can just give us a bit of a nutshell so the people at home understand who we're talking to and we're in the presence of greatness.
Greatness. I'm getting there. I came to Asia in 2005 to work for a gym chain. And I was a personal trainer back in the States. And it was a great job. I enjoyed what I did. I got to help people live better lives. And it's something that I did since 1999. And when I came to Asia, I worked for a huge chain and we were doing massive numbers. It was just this huge deal, right? Like 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And it was just, I knew there was something else out there. And I started competing. I started training regularly in Muay Thai. I did martial arts when I was a kid, but nothing. And I even fought a couple of times amateur in the States. But I really wanted to try to win something, to win a title in something, because I was always third place. Forever, all my tournaments as a kid, I was forever third place. So I really wanted a championship. So I realized that I needed to go in a different direction. And I went to intern at a physical therapy clinic and I started working on this training program. And as I built this training program, I managed to build myself into a professional fighter. And I got involved with, like you said, the acting and the modeling things, but those things were just kind of to pay the bills as I was trying to be a fighter. And I just got more and more into the fitness side of it and the martial arts side of it. And as I was getting better and better in martial arts, I got an opportunity to work for Evolve Mixed Martial Arts. And that's when life really changed. And I really surrounded myself with so many world champions. And the rest is history, dude. Like I got to fight in Thailand. I was fighting for ESPN as their main event, fighting for belts. And then the commentary thing came up, and it was the opportunity to just keep me in the limelight, right? They wanted their champion to be like a spokesperson as well, to talk about the fights. And I did horribly. It was ridiculously bad, right, as an audition. And I went back and I did a couple seasons of a TV show, Fit for Fashion. And it's like Biggest Loser meets America's Next Top Model. And I was the coach behind this thing. And it was really a lot of exposure to speaking, right? To talking off the cuff and to getting better at just talking in front of a camera. And I went back and they were like, our guy just dropped out. Would you like to do another show for one championship? And I was like, dude, put me in. I'm ready to go. And I did so much better at that the next job. I was like, yeah, I went back and practiced. I got a coach. I did all this research. And they were like, okay, do you want the job? And I was like, let's go. And I was working at the time for one of the largest fitness corporations in pretty much the world as their director of personal training. So I reached the pinnacle of the personal training job, right? And it was the dream that it was the influence that I always dreamed about having, right? To coach thousands of people and help them get better at their jobs. But I realized it was all paperwork and board meetings and profit and loss statements and EBITDA. Like it was just so much like stuff that they promised me it wouldn't be, that I was like, I can always go back to the corporate life, but this commentary gig is kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. So 2015, I haven't looked back, and I get paid to pretty much study the martial arts, which is an amazing job that I wake up every single day grateful for.
So great comment on the segue on what I wanted to say. So studying martial arts, I've always been well, actually not always, but I've always loved, I said it again, but loving martial arts, the mindset behind it. You guys are just so disciplined, focused, dedicated. And I see that go into your daily lives and how you ran a business in the Philippines, and how just you're a calm guy. Nothing seems to really phase you in the face of adversity. You have had challenges in your life, but being so centered and relaxed about these things, and I feel that comes from mixed martial arts. It's helped you to guide you through these things, and pave a path that's quite, like comparing it to me, I get anxious and anxiety. I get angry about certain things, but you just seem to be cool and chilled all the time. So that's actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about, like the mindset of a fighter, because again, I'm presuming here the people that watch us in other episodes, maybe they don't know a lot about martial arts or the fighting world. I wanted to educate them and also educate myself further on the mindset of a fighter and talk about one championship. Because everyone knows, well, a lot of people do know about UFC, but what is the difference in mixed martial arts versus specialized, how that all comes about, and what it's like to be a professional fighter. So those are some of the things I want to dig into. But starting off with, so your fight history, you started as a young man, and then you did a few disciplines, a lot of stand-up striking. You want to talk us through that quickly, and then we'll get into what it's like being a professional fighter.
Yeah, martial arts is something I've always done. You know, like some people, like they've always played music. Like my fiance has been in a voice role her entire life, doing voice recordings, and it's just something that I've always had. Like ever since I was 6 years old, my mom enrolled me in it. And it was her way of getting me in touch with the Japanese side of my like my culture, right?
Yeah.
So I'm half Japanese, half American, and she just wanted me to have that discipline, right? And so from a very young age, I remember I would just get my ass handed to me regularly, like every day, and just having those types of workouts where you expend everything. Like there's nothing left in your soul, your body, your mind, everything is drained. You think differently, you know, like a lot of people, especially during this time, they're very in their head. All the stress and the anxiety and the hardship, it's all stuck inside their body and their mind, and it comes out in various ways. When you train in the martial arts, you have an outlet for it. It might be punching, it might be kicking, it might be swinging a stick, it might be grappling with another person. It's a release for it. You know, a lot of times people work out and they might spend 30 minutes on a bike. They might, you know, do weights for 20 minutes, or they might go play tennis or something, but they don't ever have this point afterwards where they're drained, right? And that's what martial arts has kind of given me. And I've just always done it. It's like ever since I was a little kid, it was all Japanese stuff when I was growing up. And then when I was 18, I started studying Kung Fu. I went into kickboxing and then Muay Thai. And that's when I really started to explore different areas of martial arts, because that's when the UFC started to get really popular in like the late 90s. And I started to explore grappling and wrestling and judo. And then it was just, you know, I started competing in kickboxing matches, and then slowly progressed into Muay Thai matches and fighting in Thailand. And it's always giving me a way to deal with things, you know, like if you put yourself in these situations where you're getting smashed on by another human being and everything else just kind of goes away, you know, like the stresses of daily life don't really matter because you've went through those hardships. I'm reading a lot of books and listening to books by military officers who have, like, Navy SEALs that have put themselves into these life or death situations. And then they come back into the business world and things just seem a little bit easier. So it's like I've been through those hard positions in my life where I'm struggling. I can't breathe. I'm getting pounded on. I'm getting, you know, hurt. And it gives me perspective, you know, that, okay, most of the things we worry about, like in our head, like, you know, they never come true, right? Like 99.9% of the things we worry about never happen. And putting myself in these types of situations in competition, it gives me perspective and a way to deal with it. And it's also a release, Like, it's just like after a hard training session, I'm just a little bit more relaxed about everything. So it makes things easier to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that, like, some other athletes, and even like guys that go to the gym, girls that go to the gym, and do whatever sports training. At the end of that session, you are tired, you are exhausted. But I mean, I've trained with you, and it's a different feeling after any form of mixed martial arts, whether it's boxing, whether it's Muay Thai, or groundwork. You're always that much more exhausted. And I guess there's going to be people out there that are going to say, no, that tennis session that I had, I was done. My mind was clear. But I always dispute that. I'm like, yeah, well, if you've sparred for 5 rounds, if you can last 5 rounds, it is another level of just being totally depleted.
100%. Like, I do agree that there are, like, I'm sure there's tennis people that have put everything in basketball. Like, when you're training for something full on, there's definitely levels to exhaustion. But when you hit something like that, release of, stress is just there. When you're, hitting a bag or another person or pads or something like that, it's a different type of release, So I just think that, any type of full on expenditure where you're completely exhausted just helps you deal with things a little bit better. And also, martial arts gives you a certain sense of confidence. There's a feeling of being able to handle yourself and to take care of, to look after your loved ones and to be a little bit more centered and focused rather than letting emotions kind of get the better of you. Or so there's that as well.
Yeah, you mentioned looking after your loved ones. I mean, in my 20s, I had a few mates that were training and were in the fight world. They were the last people to get in fights. It was always just the drunken, rowdy people that would get in fights and then hands and throw like this. But it's the actual fighters, the guys that are calming everyone down, just chilling out the situation. I always found that fascinating.
It gives you a different perspective, like if you spend your entire day doing that, it helps with just understanding yourself, which is, I think, an important aspect for everybody, regardless of what activity you choose to engage with. As long as it gives you a sense of accomplishment, you enjoy doing it, and you find a way to make it work for you, then it's good.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about fighting as like a martial arts in general. You started with the Japanese art forms. What is the oldest form of martial arts? Do you know?
I mean, Kung Fu, definitely Kung Fu has been around for a very, very long time. There's like European sorts of combat, like even like boxing and wrestling. Like, wrestling has been around since like the Olympiad, like from 300 BC or something like that. Like, it's when the first Olympics happened, wrestling was part of it, but then it goes like even further back to like Africa, different types of fighting styles. I mean, because fighting is, it's kind of been around since the existence of man. And then there's that, I'm sure there was that one guy that was like, hey, if I use this stick, it's going to smash this guy in the face with it. I'm going to get really good at using this stick, So I think it's just the history of it just goes back, but the first like solid martial arts, I think they're probably a form of African wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
I will definitely look that up. But then, okay, so then you go, Western boxing, stand-up boxing has always been that, like, the pinnacle of the martial arts, so to speak, where you've got all the big heavyweight fights in the 60s and all that sort of stuff. That's what people know. And then hot onto the scene in the 90s is UFC, where there's people jumping around doing all sorts of different things. You were making a couple of comments about the Gracies, and for everyone out there, the Gracies are kind of like the guys that create. Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong here, but really developed Brazilian jiu-jitsu and made that what it is today, that the name of it. But then you were watching the first UFC fight where you were thinking that the strikers, they're just not doing a good enough job against these guys. And then you learned that ground fighting is really, it's an art that really needs to be there to round yourself in mixed martial arts. But I wanted to talk about sort of like Muay Thai. How does it all come together? Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, karate, all of the assets. How do they all come together?
Well, I'm sure you remember, like in the you're similar age to me, you know, but like in the 80s and the 90s, like martial arts had this kind of mystic sort of aura around it, right? Like the grand masters, they couldn't show you their most lethal and deadly moves because they would kill you, right?
Yeah.
And there was always like this din mak, like this death touch that was hidden, and they had all these different types of masters like kung fu and aikido and karate and taekwondo and all these different types of martial arts, and majority of them were stand-up, and we got to know them through the movies. And the movies completely distorted my view of martial arts, right? I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like I wanted to throw that jump spinning wheel kick in the air, and I wanted to be jacked, and I wanted to knock people out. And I think a lot of people had this sort of preconceived notion that martial arts is the really fancy, beautiful style moves, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, you know, Bruce Lee, you know, really made it, wow, you know, that type of spectacular display of martial arts prowess, right? And then in the 90s, in the early 90s, 1993, there was these jiu-jitsu guys, right? These little Brazilians that were dressed in pajamas that would go around California and they would challenge other gyms to fights, and they would wreck everybody. They would grab a hold of people, take them to the ground, and choke them out. And the next thing they know, this grandmaster would wake up and be like, what was that? And it was something that started to slowly gain traction on an underground scene. And then the Gracies came up with a tournament where they would put their style against all the others, because it was basically an infomercial for jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, specifically Gracie jiu-jitsu. And they chose the smallest Gracie because some of the other Gracies are giants of men. They are muscular and ripped, and they're scary looking dudes. But Royce, he was your average man, right? And there was with this 170-pound boy that goes in there and starts wrecking everybody, starts choking everybody out, really puts jiu-jitsu on the map. And then slowly people started to like advance themselves into mixed martial arts, the point where you needed to add a ground game to your stand-up game, because stand-up guys would just get taken down and then submitted, right? And ground guys, if they couldn't strike, if they couldn't get the guy to the ground, they were in trouble. So it's just been this slow evolution. And the thing about mixed martial arts is it's really only 30 years old from mainstream, but it goes back, you know, several decades to like Brazil and Vale Tudo, the pancrase arts, right? In Europe, pancration is a form of mixed martial arts. Sambo in Russia is a form of mixed martial arts. So there's a lot of arts out there that blended grappling with striking already, right? So you can do mixed martial arts just by blending two of those things together, one striking art and one grappling art. Over the past 30 years, there's been 4 that have kind of grown as the most popular, right? There's Muay Thai because it's devastating striking capabilities. There is boxing, right? Traditional boxing because of the head movement and the hands, the power in the hands. Muay Thai has those elements, but boxing has a little bit different style to it, right? Because of the head movement and the defense and the countering ability. There's wrestling because you need to be able to either A, stop a takedown, or B, get the takedown if you want to grapple with somebody. And then the fourth one is Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or grappling of some kind, where you have submission arts. So it's the combination of kind of those three. It's a striking art, boxing, Muay Thai, karate. That works, it's growing in popularity. Taekwondo, some kind of distance management like wrestling, either stopping the takedown or getting the takedown. That's wrestling. And then the third one is that grappling piece. Your Brazilian jiu-jitsu, your catch wrestling, something with submissions where you can advance that thing. And so then it's just the matter of developing all those things. In my day, right, there was kind of like you were good at one thing, right? You were a striker that had to learn grappling like me, right? Or you were a grappler that had to learn striking, right? Now kids are starting all three arts at the same time. There are kids that are Golden Gloves boxing champions, state wrestling champions, and then they freaking go out and learn jujitsu and they've got their purple belts. At like 16 years old, these kids have all three things. They're going to be the most dangerous people on the face of this planet. And especially as mixed martial arts starts to, gain more popularity and more money, because now we're starting to get athletes that could go to the NFL, but they're choosing mixed martial arts. Guys that could play in the NBA or professional basketball, but they're like, I kind of like the idea of being the baddest man on the planet. And so we're starting to see these super freak athletes come in and sort of develop those skill sets too. So it's a really exciting time in mixed martial arts. And it's probably like, I know F1 is really popular because I'm into that right now. I'm kind of into F1, but MMA is going to be the sport of the future. It will be, like the Coliseum back in, when people think of like, you ever seen Real Steel, like those robots fighting each other?
Oh, yeah.
It's mixed martial arts, I think, will be the most dominant sport in the world.
Just a couple of things on what you were saying, though. So the Gracies, there's 5 brothers. I can't remember, actually.
Dude, the family is gigantic, but essentially there's 2 sides, right? There's 2 different sides of the Gracie family, but there are hundreds of them, but there are 5 of the main ones, and they branch out and they have extended families, and they're an amazing group of people.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that. And then you were talking about athletes that are in high-paying jobs like NFL. Because it's funny, there's that heavyweight UFC fighter who walked away from the NFL, and he's now professionally fighting and potentially earning, if not more money. It's crazy.
There's going to be a lot of them. There's going to be a lot, especially now because like there's this crossover that's happening with boxing,
Yeah.
And I think that the money is going to really start to show. Like these YouTubers are getting paid millions, bruh.
I wanted to talk to you about this. How do you feel about this? Because professional athletes. It was Nate Robinson, right? The back in the day, great NBA player, and then he fought. Was it Jake Paul?
Yeah,
man. And the money behind that fight was mental.
Well,
how do you feel about this?
KSW fought, right? And it was kind of like when those 2 guys fought, like it wasn't really like they were like, okay, they're fighting Jake Paul, Logan Paul. But then Logan Paul fought Money Mayweather, right? Like that was like a super fight.
Yeah.
And then, Tyrone Woodley got a shot,
Right.
And Jake Paul starches him in the first round.
Twice.
It's you asked me how I feel about it, and like there's a lot of hardcores that we talk about this with, like how do we feel about this? And honestly, dude, I freaking love it. I think it's bringing in like a whole new demographic of people, like different just all sorts of different people are starting to find out about the sports that I love. And I bet they're bringing in 17-year-olds to the gyms, and like kids are starting to box more because they see their, favorite influencer doing it. And they're like, I can make millions of dollars doing this. And, like the first time I really saw it was when Conor McGregor got to cross over and fight Mayweather. Like that was like the first time that one of like MMA guys, right? Like we got to the top, like the pinnacle, you know, and looked decent doing it. You know, he wasn't no tomato can. He actually put on an entertaining fight for 10 rounds. So he got stopped, but still he did it, you know? So I love the attention that it's bringing, and really I'm looking forward to see what happens. You know, now they're talking about Jorge Masvidal might fight Jake Paul, and maybe one of these Paul brothers are going to fight mixed martial arts soon, because I saw him practicing kicks the other day. So I'm getting a kick out of it, man. I like the shine that it's bringing to the sport.
I think so as well. I think it's bringing a lot more attention. I mean, look, boxing has always been there, but I feel like it dipped off in popularity. I mean, the real heads were still following it, but once upon a time, it was everyone. You used to stop and watch the big fights, like the Muhammad Ali versus Foreman. Like whether you followed fighting, boxing, or whatever, you would watch that fight just because of the showmanship and you could see the raw talent in these guys. And then it was Tyson. Everyone went out to watch Tyson, right? When the Tyson fight came on the TV, you'd watch it because it's just so amazing. See this guy just throwing one punch and just destroying these mountains of men. But I like it because, I watch the mixed martial arts. I watch the One Championship. I watch UFC, maybe a bit of Bellator. But I just feel like with these crossovers, it's getting more eyeballs, more attraction, which is great.
Why do you think people prefer, because boxing is kind of the biggest sport in the world, like combat area, right? Like it's still bigger. You know, they make millions of dollars. Why do you think people are gravitating towards boxing? What is it about boxing that really caps people's interest?
I think it's the heritage. Because going back to Foreman Ali, like the Rumble in the Jungle, it's just got such great, for lack of a better term, marketing around it. But it was the talent, it was the showmanship. Those characters, those athletes, those guys just roped everyone in. But before that, there was a bit of it, and I don't know the history of boxing that well, but I just know that it's always been that spectacle where you see these two giant human beings fighting, because the heavyweight's always the big one, right? And these two giant guys just going at it, trading, hitting each other. There's just something about that the world loves to see. Because I mean, I even know that my mum used to watch the boxing, and my mum is not about, fighting mixed martial arts or anything like that, but she used to love watching it because it was so entertaining. And I think it's held that. I think the heavyweight world lost it a little bit after the Holyfield. I remember the Evander Holyfield Mike Tyson fight where Tyson bit Holyfield's ear. I was watching that with my whole family, and no one would ever watch a boxing match otherwise. But it was these two amazing human beings going at it. I think it was just entertaining. I don't know, just drawn to it. But after that, I feel it kind of dipped off. And I know the serious guys were watching Pacquiao's and the Mayweathers and things like that, or the serious enthusiasts. But there's been less. There's been a lot less. And now we're seeing revival with Anthony Joshua, the UK fighter, got 4 belts. I think he missed out on the 5th belt. Andy Ruiz has done a lot for the sport, being some of the memes were great. Big, I hate to say it, but big fat guy winning the heavyweight champion. It's like, yes, go big guys. And then who else do we have? Oh, then obviously Tyson Fury and the Deontay Wilder. Like these guys are just, you look at these guys, they're just real chiseled men. They're just big men that were just fascinating to watch fighting each other. And I think that for me, it ropes me in.
I think because I'm trying to figure out, like, because we have 3 sports primarily at One Championship, right? We've got Muay Thai, we've got kickboxing, and we've got mixed martial arts. Occasionally we have grappling, and we've even had a boxing match before too. I'm trying to figure out what is the allure of each one of those sports, what draws people to it. And I had this conversation with a really well-known fighter the other day about what makes boxing the king of the combat sports, and I thought it was the duration. right? Because you get long matches, right? With mixed martial arts, it's like 3 5-minute rounds. It's over relatively quickly. But with boxing, you get 12 3-minute rounds, right?
Yeah.
So there's this arc that can happen of storytelling, and you have all these movies, right, where the guy's getting beat on for 8 rounds, and then he comes back in the 9th, and then builds in the 10th, and then finally in the 12th round he gets that knockout win. But Tyson Fury's really good for the sport. I really like that guy. I think he kind of missed out on the Joshua fight because Joshua lost. But I think that fight's going to come around pretty soon. It's really interesting what's going on in boxing right now. And like I said, it's just bringing more eyes to the sport. I actually wanted to see Paul fight Fury's brother, right? Because that was going to happen, right? And then that's how Woodley got in too. So I thought that would have been a good test for him as well. But I like what's going on. I've actually toyed with the idea of trying my hand at the sweet science as well.
Really? That would be very interesting. I did want to ask you, because 2019, or was it February 2020, when we physically was the last time we saw each other in your gym in Manila, you were talking about potentially getting back in the ring the following year, or the circle for 1FC. But where are you at with that now? Is that something that's possible?
I don't know, man. Like it's something I think about every day, not having that drive to compete kind of helps. Makes me slack on my diet a little bit. I'll have an extra beer here and there. I might skip a training session, but when you have a fight, right, it's life-changing. Like your whole world revolves around getting ready for one day, and I miss that. I miss the basically, I hate to really think about it, but the attention, that focus, the whole world shuts down. And for you, 12,000 people, like I remember competing at the RN at the Stadium, which is in Manila. The Thrilla in Manila was at RN at the Stadium, right? And the rush that I felt when I hit the ramp and 17,000 people went bananas, right? There's nothing like that, like there's no other feeling in the world like that walk, and then getting your hand raised and having people go nuts. And for 20 minutes, the world just stops and focuses on you, so I miss that. I miss the purpose. And I miss that raw passion inside that ring, inside the cage, inside the circle. I miss that feeling of preparing, for 3 months, 6 months, a year for one day, and then having it all go wrong or having it go incredibly right, so I miss that. And I do want to do something, someday, but right now, like I commentate every single fight for one championship. So it's hard for me to just be like, I'm going to step aside, but once things get back to normal and we have more commentators and I can get to the gym and really try to push it. But dude, man, I tried for a year here, right? Like my whole mission was to get my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I went every day, sometimes twice a day, dude. And I tell you what, man, at the end of the year, when I finally wrapped that belt, my body hurts so bad, dude. Like every single joint that in my body was inflamed and I was in a lot of pain. Like some days I could barely even walk to the bathroom, let alone go through a hard sparring session. So it's not the fight that I'm worried about. It's the actual training camp of, 12 weeks of a grind, and not just like working out with dummies, which is what I was doing during the pandemic, right? Like we didn't have person-to-person contact for a long time. So I was training with dummies. I can't imagine having some savage start smashing on me for 12 weeks when I could barely even handle the dummy workouts. So, but it is something I think about every day, and I will do something. It might be boxing, it might be like charity boxing or a grappling tournament, or who knows, maybe even a walk to the circle one more time just to feel that again. So we'll see, because I can't go out the way that I did, dude. You saw the video. That last fight was horrible, man. I can't go out like that. So we'll see.
Actually, let's talk about that. We've spoken about it, but we never really got into the details. Like, and you articulated it so well just before that 20 minutes. It's when you're walking, when you're at the Araneta Stadium, 17,000 people just cheering. All eyes are on you, and then everyone at home watching it on TV. All that sort of stuff. What does it take to get there? Like, because obviously, not everyone can do this, but what does it take?
You know what the thing is that I think everyone could do it, right? Maybe not at that level, right? Maybe not at like fighting in front of, thousands of people at a giant stadium or in a professional league, but most people could fight, right? Like you could do white collar boxing, you could enter a jiu-jitsu tournament, you could do it. It just takes discipline, right? It takes discipline to train every day, to also to be at a point where you're confident in your skill set. Because fighting is in all of us. I think there is a mentality of protection of oneself and others that is innate. Like it's, like Dana White kind of explained it when he said that if there's a field, right, and there's a basketball game, a football game, a tennis match, and then a fight breaks out over here, on the tennis court, everybody's going to run to that tennis court, right, and check out what's going on. So it's something that we all can do. Do we all want to do it? I don't know. That's some people don't like to inflict harm onto other people, and that's something they don't like. Or some people just don't want harm inflicted onto themselves. They don't want to get hit, so, but most people can do it. Like I would say that most 20-year-old men, men in their 20s, even men in their 30s, could train for a year and compete in some sort of, contest, where another person is testing you. So even women too, it's an incredibly empowering thing, for women to compete in violence, right? Or martial arts. And it's also a level of protection. I think all women should definitely learn Brazilian jiu-jitsu just because of, it's a dangerous world out there. And, jiu-jitsu is a lot of submission stuff that's on the ground. And that's where a lot of things take place. So to answer your question, what does it take? It really just takes drive. It takes a focus and really a discipline to wake up every day and try to get a little bit better.
So what is it, training every single day from the time you're 20 or 17 or 10? And when you training every day, we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about just building that into your life. So then how do you compartmentalize what do you operate 12 hours a day or 18 hours a day, right? So then most people go to work for 8-9 hours. So to be a professional fighter, can you still have a full-time job? What's the balance there? How does it all work?
You can have a full-time job, and a lot of professional fighters need to have that, that income. And then fighting is just kind of their hobby. Like for me, martial arts has always been my hobby ever since I was a small kid, and then when I started working in the fitness industry, it was still my hobby. And I still kind of think of it like that. I've just managed to turn my hobby into my profession. But for the average fighter, they have a full-time job, like if you think about it, like I'm sure you've heard this analogy, you're big into self-improvement and, maximizing, hacks and things like that. Like if you sleep 8 hours a day and you work 8 hours a day, you've still got 8 hours a day, right? There's those 8 hours a day that are, you can put family in there and taking care of your kids. What's that, 2 or 3? Maybe you take eating for another 2 hours a day. You got 4 hours left. You can use those 4 hours to get better in whatever it is you want. If you want to start a business, if you want to learn a musical instrument, if you want to run a marathon, or if you want to, compete in something, whether it's martial arts or if it's a marathon, you've got the time to do that. It just comes down to that time management sort of aspect, and also sacrificing what you want now for what you want later, right? Like, can you put off watching Netflix for 2 hours to go to the gym and hit the bag, or to go to a class or something like that? Can you put off that burger that you want and take off the bun and have it lettuce wrapped instead, so it's always those types of decisions,
Just don't eat the burger. You can't have a burger without the bun, man. We have this argument all the time. You have to have a burger. The element of the burger is a good quality bun. You can't, if you're just eating the meat patty and lettuce, what the hell?
It's guilt-free, dude. There's no guilt associated with it. It's
of time, bro. It's a waste of time. Just don't do it. And on your cheat day, have the whole burger with the bread.
Nope, not gonna do it. I feel
we will always disagree about this.
Yes, we will.
You're talking about. You said before, like starting your own business. You had a gym in the Philippines, and it's not just any gym. Like I've been in and out of gyms since I was a young kid. I've always tried to lose weight and all that sort of stuff. Your gym, and I'm not just saying this because we're talking again. I say this to everyone. I'm a huge advocate of your gym. I think it was the best place that I went to train in my all time. And when I heard that you closed it, I was devastated. I understand why. Obviously, it's that 2 years. Anyone in health and fitness, I just feel for you. That would have been the worst possible time, and so many businesses went bust. And unfortunately, you had to close yours. Devastated, man. I told me, like, what happened? What was the time that you went, you know what? I have to close it.
Man, dude, like so we had a gym because we opened one in Greenbelt, and then we closed it because management never got the permits. And so my fiance said, let's do another one. I was like, what?
So I was just going to say, Greenbelt is a mall in the Philippines in Manila. Yes. Big mall. Really nice place. So yeah, because your gym, and you were living at the time in Manila.
Yeah. So we had that gym, and on the day that we opened, the management came in and said, we never got the permits. You have to shut, right? And everything got stuck into storage. And about a year went by, and then my fiance found another location right above all of her recording studios. So it was in this like dump, like you like it was like, describe it to the people. Like, what area was our gym in?
I love Manila. I love the Philippines so much. That area, it was a bit run down. Okay, it's a bit run down, but there's some great restaurants down the road. There was all those Japanese restaurants. Heck, I almost lived around the corner for a few years. But yeah, it's run down.
That's the thing, right? Like I thought it had character. I thought like foreigners, we're like, oh, it's kind of hip. It's in like we're right above a girly bar, right? Like
that's right.
I thought it was cool, right? But like to the Filipinos, they were like, oh my God, that's a dump. I can't believe you guys have your business there. But it was cool. The windows, the brick.
Yeah, the circle windows.
Yeah. Starcy made this place absolutely amazing. And we really stuck to these kind of beliefs that I learned in the fitness industry, basically taking everything that I learned and I didn't like and making our own place, and it was we had a little coffee shop in there where you could get shakes and our special coffee blend. And it was like really the culmination of 4 years of work. We traveled all over the world, finding the best practices and the best recipes and fine tuning our, basically all of our SOP, standard operating procedures. We wanted to find everything to make it perfect. And we spent 2 years doing that, right? And finally, we started to get the right clientele. We had, a great group of people that were coming there having fun. We were finally broke even, and then boom, the pandemic crushed us. And it was like in March of 2020 is when we had that first closure, right? Yep. They were just like, and in my head, I was thinking it's going to be 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks, this thing's going to pass and we'll be right back to normal, right? And it went on and it went on, and the gym and things just got worse and worse and worse. And then it went from March until September, right? And I was like, oh, this is not going to get better. I kind of saw the direction that the Philippines was going, and like 6 months. And I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And I wish I would have saw the writing on the wall like back in April or May and just pulled the plug immediately. I'm like, nope. But we kept having that hope, that dream alive that it would be salvaged. And gyms to this day, bro, are still struggling. Like they can't open up in Manila, you know? And it's heartbreaking for my friends that are just struggling out there. And so my heart goes out to them. And it was an eye-opening sort of realization that, and I was like, you know, I got to do what's best for my family, and I got to try to make this switch. And I pretty much just said, okay, I'm going to go to Singapore and won championship. And like the relationship that we had, they were very supportive, and they basically just said, okay, we're going to take care of everything. We'll get you a visa. We'll bring you over here, and let's go. And so I hopped on a plane and left my fiance, and then a year went by before we were able to get reunited.
That's crazy. 1 year.
It's been wild, dude. It's been wild. You know, and so she had to pack up everything, right? Like all our gym stuff, she had to try to sell everything. She had to pack everything up. She put it all in storage. She had to handle all my stuff and shipping it, you know, to Singapore. So it's been rough, man. It was a hard couple of, I know it's been hard for people around the world, and, you know, my small, you know, difficulties are minor compared to what people are really struggling with. But for me, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, you guys work so hard, and I remember that story that Sasi actually built the gym for you for your birthday present.
Yeah,
which is
you know,
really nice.
Yeah, my 40th birthday, she was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I want a gym." And she's like, "What?" And she's like, "All right, there you go."
So how's she doing? Because she was doing voice recording stuff and a lot of work in the Philippines, and now she's just at home in Singapore looking after the cat. Or no, she must She must be doing 1,000 things.
Yeah, she's doing 1,000 things. She's got a lot of irons in the fire. She had 3 companies in Manila, and she's in the process of, she basically transitioned the whole really well here. Like she sold all of her property that was in Manila, and then she's selling her final company now. So she's in the process of the handover of her last company. So she's, you know, we're okay. We're comfortable enough for her to be in a position where she gets to decide what she wants to do. And I think that's a rare position for people to be in. And I think she's looking at finance because that's been my sort of interest. And every day I'm talking about stocks and crypto to her, and she's slowly gotten sucked into the world of finance. So there's some opportunities there for her. But I'm really excited to see what, you know, she can do as far as the world of corporate work is concerned. You know, if she wants to do that or she wants to start her own thing. She's in a good spot to really make some good moves and come up with some that's really going to be fun for her.
Yeah, I'm sure she's going to continue to do 1,000 other things. Once she lands on one, she'll find something else. She is hardcore, that lady. Stocks, crypto, you're still banging away at it.
Dude, I've gone like off the deep end, man. Like
even further?
Yeah, even further, man. Like, I really think just finance is fun, man. It's so much fun to learn about it. And for the longest time, I've always felt like, I've always been like, when people talked about, oh, I own Facebook and Google and I sold my Apple the other day, I was always like, as a kid, I was like, wow, you know, that sounds so cool, you know, to own parts of those companies, you know? And so I've been involved with stocks for a while, and that's definitely been interesting. But now crypto's my new sort of my jam right now. And it's been fun to learn about that. And some days it's like all day long. I'm like freaking on my phones, computers, and it's a little bit obsessive, but it's I think we're at a point with crypto, because it's not just currency, right? Currency is a chunk of it. Currency was the first thing that really brought attention to the blockchain and this new technology. But I think we're at a point now where we're at the beginning of something, right? And if like we had this opportunity, like with the .com thing and like the stock market in the 80s and Apple and those sorts of times. I miss that stuff. You know, the real estate boom of like 2009 when everything collapsed. I didn't have any money to buy a house or something like that. But now here is a completely new opportunity, and it's something that I find very intriguing.
What do you think about NFTs?
NFTs are another product of the blockchain, right?
Yep.
That's what it is, right? It's a way to verify ownership and authenticity of a particular product. NFTs, people are like, oh, it's just a JPEG, right? There's just I can Command Alt 4 and I can make that screenshot myself. But it's a new way to authenticate things. And it's fascinating, man. Like the way that they're evolving this technology is really going to explode. You know, as we look at like the metaverse, and as this technology sort of comes out as far as the products that the people are making, it's interesting. I do like the space.
Okay. Again, it's something that I have no idea about. I'm trying to learn. I try and dedicate 10, 15 minutes a day just to do a bit of research. I'll get to a point and I'll call you up and I'll get a bit more education later on.
Dude, you got to get a blockchain guy or a crypto guy on your guest as your podcast, you know?
I know. That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah.
Dig into it, dude.
All the research already pre-done.
So many people are, you know, they're interested in it. They're questioning it, you know, and it's a space that most people are just like crypto, blockchain, NFTs, you know, like Bitcoin. It's a fake money run by kids and computers. I don't see how it's going to be any of value, you know, but it's really intriguing once you really start learning about it, and you start to learn about how it's not necessarily just the money. And that's what people get hung up on. The money was just the first thing that we drew attention to. But then there's the dApps, decentralized apps. Imagine owning your own data, right? Like Google and Facebook didn't have all your information, right? You owned all of your own data, and it's the whole different way to look at the internet, right? And then money came, you know, the blockchain and the crypto and all that really got people thinking, because it was a new way to send money, right? Like a new way to value things. And now with dApps, these decentralized apps, and now with NFTs. So it's just going to keep going, just like the internet in the 90s, right? When we first got like Amazon, right? It was just a bookstore, right? And people were like, oh, you can go send email, electronic email, you know, it's a technology now that's going to really change the way we view the internet.
Yeah. Any crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain, NFT people out there, if you have questions about it, throw it at us. We're going to try and find someone to answer these questions, because I am fascinated about it. It just takes up so much of my headspace learning this stuff, and I just switch off. Which I got to tell you, I'm off coffee this week, which is a terrible idea, because I used to drink a lot of coffee. I used to drink a lot of your coffee, the butter coffee. That was amazing. But I'm on green teas at the moment. So if you hear weird noises, I'm pouring that. I'm not doing anything funky under the table. It's just pouring myself more and more green tea. And I got my boosted shot yesterday. So,
okay.
Yeah.
How are you feeling after the booster?
A bit flat. Like I was just in a daze. I had a meeting before jumping on this call with you, and I was just sitting there at one point staring out the window. Yeah. My clients are looking at me like I'm an absolute weirdo, but that's not uncommon. Hey, I want to ask you, and again, look, we're just going to chat on until you say, Jaden, I want to go. You're annoying. But I was going to ask you, one championship. What's the difference between one championship and UFC? The reason being is because I don't know if you actually have seen any of the other episodes or sessions of Follow the Podcast. There is usually a couple of our hosts. We've got seven hosts, and we usually team up and we talk to someone. And Carter, our producer, she does all this great research and has a list of questions. But today I just wanted to have a chat to you one-on-one. But the guys have sent in questions. So that's why I'm circling back, because these guys that I partner with and so graciously am involved with this podcast, they don't know much about MMA. And so I wanted to ask these questions. So ONE FC versus UFC.
Well, our CEO, chairman, Chatri Sityodtong, kind of looks at it like Samsung versus Apple, right? Alibaba versus Amazon, right? It's the East versus the West, right? And the thing about ONE Championship that makes us unique is, we have different sports. We've got the kickboxing and the Muay Thai and the grappling, and we've had the boxing. So we have the different types of combat sports that are in there. But what really sets us apart is kind of the way that we tell the story, like UFC fighters, they're kind of, they're in trouble a lot, and it draws a lot of attention to them, like Conor McGregor punching some old man, John Jones, and all his fiascos. Our athletes are all about honor, integrity, and the values of martial arts that we kind of grew up with, and putting those on the forefront. But it's really just the type of, the sport is the most important thing. But right now, you're right. There's a lot of, like you said, Bellator, PFL, UFC. There's so many organizations out there, and we're just trying to, carve our niche in that market and become, the global dominator, because UFC doesn't really have much of an Asian presence. They don't have, because in some countries we're much bigger than the UFC. Like in the Philippines, more people follow us than the UFC, and like Myanmar and Indonesia and Malaysia, we have most of the market share because of our TV deals and our broadcasting and all that stuff. So, but to be honest, we're all just fighting, right? Like, just kind of different. We got different stars, we've got different arts, but it's all just it's really similar. But it's all about who can tell the best story about the guys that make you want to follow them. And the UFC does a good job of telling their stories.
Yeah. When you compare like an apple to apple comparison, when you talk about mixed martial arts specifically, UFC's got the octagon, you guys have got the ring. And there's different rules. Do you guys follow different rules, or is it completely the same across the board?
Yeah, they've got a different set of rules within us. Like our scoring is different. We judge a match in its entirety rather than round by round. Like when a match is judged, like 10-point must system was something that they took from boxing and put that in there. We have a ring sometimes, but right now we also have a circle, which is just a giant, basically cage, but it doesn't have any sides like the octagon does, right? So it's just a full circle sphere. So we do mix it up between the ring and the circle and jumping back and forth between the two. But the biggest thing is our rule set, and how our rules are different and the scoring is different. Rather than judging it each fight starting over every 5 minutes, we judge it in its entirety. So you can, like in UFC, like you can lay on the guy for 2 rounds, right? And then and win those 2 rounds. But then in the 3rd round, just get smashed and then we still win the fight. In our organization, if that happens, the guy that gets smashed is going to lose. So it's a more realistic way to look at fighting.
Right. Okay. So talked about a lot of the difference there. So it's good. Like every time I talk to you about it, I get more of an understanding because, at the pub, you usually go out and you watch the UFC. Why do you think that there is more UFC fights at the pub on Sunday mornings as opposed to ONE Championship fights? Why am I not going to the pub? And with all due respect, I mean, I think I love watching your fights, and there's a lot of Southeast Asian homegrown heroes there, and I used to love watching Brendan Vera because I'm a huge fan of the heavyweights. But why are we not seeing more ONE FC fights in those other spaces?
Because you're going on the wrong day, dude. What the heck, man? We don't broadcast on Sunday morning. We broadcast on Friday night, man.
Fair enough.
But like I said, it really comes down to telling the story of those stars, right? Like the UFC just does a really good job of telling the story, of getting you to buy into the fights and to be interested about their characters, and that's something that we are going to do better. You are going to follow, your, Malaysian superstars like Agilan Tani, and Ann Osman. You're going to fall in love with them, to the point where you see them all the time, and it's just brand awareness, and hopefully we do, catapult, and you guys do get more interested in our guys, and gals, because our people are some of the most, interesting and intriguing people on this face of the planet. We've got Stamp Fairtex fighting Angela Lee in probably one of the most dramatic fights that you're ever going to see coming up at 1X, March 26th. Do not miss this card. It's going to be absolute bananas.
March 26th. I'm writing it down.
Dude. But we're doing everything that we need to become the global dominator in that martial arts space. But you gotta pay attention, man. You gotta look for us a little bit more on YouTube. You got to find us. Follow us on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram.
That's funny. I just followed you on Instagram.
I know, that took forever.
How weird is that? Yeah. I want to talk to you about commentating, because I think early on when we first started hanging out, you said, "Why don't you come out and watch one of the One Championship fights?" And I went. You got me in, and again, you were so disciplined because I was at the bar as per usual, having a few drinks, just a couple. While you were like, "No, I've got to go do my thing. I'm going to go over here," and you were just so on point. And I do remember as well, being in the gym, and after a session, I'd say, "Hey, let's go for a beer." You're like, "No, I've got to conserve my voice." There is so much more to commentating. Can you put some more light onto this? How much work is it for you?
Well, I learned early on that the better I took care of myself, and if I followed kind of a ritual, that my whole everything would become better, right? Like I remember I did it early on, and I would get so excited, and I would scream, and I would lose my voice halfway through the event. And so I was like, okay, that has to change. I have to do this. I have to make sure I warm up, and drinking ginger tea, and then making sure that I have a good meal the night before, and not drinking would impact my performance for the next day. So I took all the lessons that I learned from fighting, and I kind of applied them to commentating, because I still get kind of the same feeling when I commentate. Like there's a rush that happens right as we're about to start. When we hit that 15-minute countdown, I'm like jumping up and down, and I'm shadow boxing, and I'm getting like that adrenaline. It's a small chunk of it, but it's still the same. And I've got all the same sort of things. I've got rituals, and I've got habits that I've kind of formed over the years, and it's extremely exhausting. It's an emotional roller coaster ride, the entire 3 to 6 hour show. It's really hard on my body. Like I get these intense headaches sometimes because of it. So I've spent a lot of time learning how to control my voice and doing breathing exercises. And also the way I look is important too. I can't be fat on camera. Like I'm so critical of myself. So it's tough, man. To be honest with you, it's a hard job, for 1 week from, doing all my research this week. Cause next week is fight week, right? So I start this week, I'll be doing research all this week, and I'll be doing preparing graphics and getting things ready for the show that happens next week. And then on Monday, I start my interviews, and I do interviews with all the athletes. All 26 of them. I'll sit down with them for 20, 30 minutes, and I'll talk to them about their fights and what they did to get ready for this one. And then the Wednesday, I have meetings all day and phone calls and making sure all the graphics are correct. And then on Thursday is rehearsals and recordings, and it's a full thing, So it's an intense job, but I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Yeah. No, it does sound intense, and yeah, it's nice to hear that. Well, not nice to hear. It's good to hear that this is so full on, right? It's not just we see the glamour side of it where we tune in on Friday night. We see you guys talking and calling the fights, and that's it. But there is so much more behind it, which makes me want to understand more of the business side of One Championship. Like, how is the business doing? I mean, I just it would be so tough if you're Chatri at the top there trying to get this thing to turn a massive profit. Like, how is it all doing?
Well, like, I think the fact that we've had shows since July of 2020 is a huge testament to how the business is going. For most of 2020, most sports were canceled, right? You know, like NBA, NFL, basketball, like everything was gone, right? Yep. Baseball, everything shut down. But fighting kept us entertained. You know, like if it wasn't for MMA, like I would have pulled my hair out and gone absolutely crazy. Like I would have like seriously gone nuts, dude. But it was something that we kept going. And I think our fan base grew even more over the pandemic because we were able to do shows. And I think as a media company, we proved we can still put out content. And I think that really weighed heavily in, you know, like investors' minds. And, you know, we've got like all the reports that have come out on like Forbes, and Temasek is a huge investor in us, and like the Singapore investment firm. It's going real well, dude. Like apparently we're going to the States. Apparently 2021 or 2022, we will be doing shows somewhere in the United States. I don't know. That's the rumor. So expansion is coming. And I think it's going to come real quick, and One Championship is going to be everywhere.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'll definitely be tuning in next Friday night. And now definitely March 26th as well. Like it's just so entertaining to watch. It's funny, right? Two people standing there kicking the absolute bejeebers out of each other for however long, but it's just entertaining. And then once you actually get to train a little bit and understand, it's not easy just to stand there. You're not just punching someone. It's timing and breathing, and there's so much cardio. I hate cardio. Cardio sucks.
100, man. I know.
But yeah, it's hard work. Yeah, man. So you're locked in Singapore now, and you're One Championship all the way, 100%. That's you. That's
I was freelance for a while, like for most of the time, like in Manila for the past 4 or 5 years. I was all freelance, and they brought me in. But now I'm like full time One Championship employee. You know, working out here in Singapore, relocated everything. So at least for the next 2 to 3 years, I see myself here in Singapore. And doing the best work I can.
That's brilliant. Are you still doing FYI for the people at home, Mitch put his training sessions up online. Fight Shape, you just search Fight Shape on YouTube. Great sessions. I was all into it, then I got super lazy as per usual.
As you do.
But one of the best things was the stretching. So the stretching using golf balls, tennis balls, what's that? Polo? No, what's the lacrosse balls? That's the word I'm looking for. On your feet. Great. Absolutely great. I strongly encourage everyone at home, go and check those out. Are you still doing those online sessions?
Well, I'm hoping to expand FightShape.com into more. You know, I really think that it's something that I've spent my entire life doing, you know, and the fact that I've made my career now martial arts, like fitness is what I know. I know more than any other subject or any other thing. I've spent my entire life studying it. So I really want to give that back. And I feel that the online piece is going to be my way to do that. So I hope to expand a lot this year and do that specifically and make it something grand and special.
Any fitness tips for people at home, me included? Like, I don't know, just blanket simple tips.
Do what you're bad at, right? Like most people focus on what they're good at. right? If you like to stretch and you're really flexible, you're probably going to do yoga and ignore strength training and cardio. If you like to run and you enjoy that runner's high and you're good at cardio, you're probably going to run. But most of the time, you need to focus on what you're bad at. The fact that you hate cardio, right, probably says a lot about what's going on inside your body. Like your respiratory system and your cardiovascular system might need a little bit of work. So maybe focusing on something you don't like is a huge way to improve your overall health. If you like weight training and you're really strong and you enjoy pumping out reps and lifting big weights, you probably need to stretch a little bit more, so yoga and Pilates and doing myofascial release and things like that are going to benefit you as well. So try to work out your weaknesses. And that's the biggest thing that most people have a problem with, is doing what they don't enjoy. And that's kind of what Fight Shape is, right? Like we measure you and we test you to see where you're weakest. And then once we know that, then we focus on that, but we still try to give you the stuff that you enjoy. And then diet, man. Eat the stuff you like, right? You have to enjoy the food, otherwise you're not going to stick to it. But eat it consistently. You gotta eat the healthy foods. You gotta eat them all the time. You have to eat like a dog, right? A dog eats the same things every single day, right? A dog doesn't jump around and have all sorts of crazy meals, right? And mix up its diet, because it will get sick. The stomach will, dog will be crapping everywhere. You can't have that, So you have to eat the same types of foods that are healthy and for what's going on inside here. And it's extremely important, diet along with the exercise. But just be consistent with it. You can't jump on and off. You can't do great for a week, and then the week after, you go right back to your old ways. Pick one cheat day, go bananas on that cheat day, and then make sure the other 6 days are as good as possible.
Yeah. Consistency is the key. Jeez, I suck at that. But I think a lot of people do. So it's just getting disciplined. Mitch, I think I've taken a lot of your time. I really appreciate it. It's been so good to catch up with you, man. I can't wait to do this in person. We're recording this. What's the date? It's the 21st. So the VTL between Malaysia and Singapore has just opened up again today. So
come on through, man.
Yeah,
I'm actually, I need to go to Malaysia because I need to see my dentist. I have the best dentist in the world, and he is in KL. And I really want to go back and
see there's no dentist in Singapore. There's no one.
There's plenty, but this guy, Dr. Tan in KL, is the best dentist I have ever been to, and I have to go back. So I'm planning to go back to KL soon just to see my dentist. So
that's so funny. Well, when you're here to see your dentist, come over. Let's go grab a drink and
100. Let's do it.
Mate, it's been really good talking to you. Looking forward to listening to more of your commentary on next Friday night, tuning into One Championship. I'll be looking out for more fightshape.com. I want to see more of those training sessions. I'm getting back into it. I feel you on the pain situation. Yeah, I'm going to be fighting fit next time I see you.
Let's do it, brother. Let's do it.
Thanks, Mitch. Really, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much. Everyone at home, if you liked it, please throw us some comments, hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and follow Mitch on Instagram, all of his platforms, YouTube. We'll put everything in the links, all that stuff below. So thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you next time on Bole, the podcast.